I'm going to answer your questions today. You guys leave a lot of comments and I ask you to, and I cannot thank you enough because this is your channel. It's not mine. I'm just hosting it, making sure you guys are retiring with total confidence. And like a lot of you telling me, hey, I don't want to retire. I just want to know, am I working because I have to or because I want to? And then all of a sudden, I can tell you, most of my clients find out, well, they are in a good spot or they know what they need to do to be in a good spot and they don't stop working. They now go, hey, I'm going to do something I enjoy a whole lot more. Yeah, it pays less, but I'm in a good spot, so I don't care. I'm going to do it. I want you to know the earliest time that you are working because you want to, not because you have to. So today, I'm going to answer a lot of questions. And my goal is that you're going to take away from this going, hey, well, a lot of that applies to me and a lot of that doesn't. And I view my job as eliminating head trash. So a lot of advisors that I speak with are constantly going, hey, here's the best guidance you got to give to your clients. And they're right. There's a lot of it that's really good. And a lot of it I don't hear them talk about, which is, hey, here's a bunch of stuff that just does not apply to them that they've been worrying about for years. So my clients, they know this by now, but I'm teaching them to say to their neighbor, to their friend, when, everyone's a financial expert nowadays. So your neighbor might say, hey, have you heard about that rule of 55 if you're going to retire early? Or have you heard you can take out more than just 4%? And your job, once you become a client, or even if you're a very good listener here, is to eventually say, hey, that sounds really interesting, but I'm not sure that applies to me. Or, that sounds intriguing, but I don't think that applies to my situation. Because it's really easy to go, oh my God, there's so much out there. What am I missing? And I want to make sure you are going, hey, there's a lot out there. I know a lot doesn't apply to me. I'm going to focus on what does apply to me. So if you don't already know, my name is Taublieb. I'm a certified financial planner, and I want to make sure that you are optimizing what you've worked so hard for. So if you're looking for guidance on investing and tax strategy and estate planning and healthcare and insurance, you're in the right spot. I do holistic financial planning for those that want to retire before 65. I'm the host of the Early Retirement Podcast, and I'm the vice president at Root Financial Partners. So let's hop into the comments. Here's the first one from Michael Doherty7560. I apologize if it's Doherty, but going with Doherty here. He says, long message incoming. Ironically, I often fall asleep listening to your videos at night as a replacement to scrolling less educational content on TikTok, Instagram. Just listen again, writing this in the morning as I realized I didn't get to listen to the whole thing. I wonder what % of your demographic is unmarried younger men. Love the stories about John and Sue who are 52, 55, 60, whatever it is, and definitely learn from them, but wonder if you have any stories to share about 35, 40, or 45 early retirees. I was having a conversation with a friend about how we might be the most financially literate generation. Access to free educational content everywhere, but there's temptations, meme stocks, crypto, gambling. It's never been higher. What do you think? All the best. I love this message. So yeah, I do have clients that are in their 30s, 40s, and a lot of them have sold a company and they're doing really well and they have $10 million. And I don't want to make a case study saying, hey, create a company and sell it for $10 million and you can retire. I think that's almost not painting a realistic picture of the majority of people. So I have a few cases where people who are unmarried, younger men, to answer your question, it's about like 12 to 14% of the people that are watching. So I know it's still a good amount of people are watching that. As much as possible, I try to help as many people as I can by putting it into one video and then saying, hey, here's what you might want to think about if you're 10 years prior or if you're 10 years the latter. So I do my best, but to answer your question directly, I work with humans, not robots. And so the story I'll tell you here, so my dad worked for Monster Energy, one of the best performing companies over the last legitimate decades. It has done so well. And he's a human, he's not a robot. And if I told my dad, hey, you got to sell Monster stock, he'd go, Ari, I know I should diversify, but one, there's tax implications if I do sell. And two, the major thing here is I'm going to shoot myself in the foot if Monster stock goes up by 200% and I didn't own it, really feeling strongly that it would go up. And so my job is not to tell my clients, own this, don't own this. My job is to quantify trade-offs so you understand the magnitude of any decision. So for my father, I said, hey, Dad, I know right now you fortunately love what you're doing. You're still working. And luckily he likes what he does because he's in his 70s and he was burned by a few financial advisors. That's why I became an advisor. But for my father's case, I said, hey, you're going to want to travel. You want to take X amount of surf trips. If you want to see, which is pretty crazy. So here's my dad right here. He is in his early 70s and he is surfing and he loves surfing to an unhealthy degree, just like I love finances to an unhealthy degree. And I try, of course, joking when I say that. But my point here is he loves surfing and he likes taking expensive surf trips. And I said, do you really want Monster Energy's performance to impact your ability to surf? He's like, no. but I don't want to see Monster go up by a bunch and have me be pissed. And I say, yeah, I realize that because you're a human being, not a robot. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to intentionally sell X amount of Monster Energy stock, knowing that if it still goes up, you have still a good amount of equity in it, but it's not going to dictate your ability to take surf trips. So for most of you, maybe you're in your 40s or 50s and you're like, listen, I've got these few positions. They've done really well for me. I don't know. Should I keep it? Should I sell it? And in those situations, I want to show you how much I recommend selling. And I'll tell my client, here's how much I recommend selling. I'm not saying it's going to do good or do bad. It's just here's how much I recommend, because if it doesn't do well, now it's not forcing you to go back to work, and it doesn't mean you can no longer travel to the degree that you'd like, but it still allows you to have a vested interest. The reason I like to do it this way is because most advisors are like, go diversify. It's like, hey, yeah, I know I should diversify, but there's tax implications, and I also really like this company, so I don't want to just diversify for diversify's sake. So in terms of all of the temptations, as I mentioned earlier in the video, there's going to be a lot, and there's going to continue to be a lot. And if you're not educated well, and there is a lot of great educational content, as Michael Doherty 7560 mentions here, but I want to make sure that you're going, hey, my neighbor brings up a meme stock, or I should have crypto. I'm cool with you owning those things. Even you mentioned here gambling. Gambling, of course, is not something I'm ever going to recommend to a client, but I have one client who's one of my best clients. They have about $4.5 million with us. And they're like, listen, I really know I enjoy gambling, and it's one of those things, it's my vice. I enjoy doing it. Don't know what to tell you, but I don't want to jeopardize my retirement. So I want to know how much can I gamble, knowing if it went to zero, it's not going to mean my kids can't go to college and my grandkids aren't going to be okay. So here's someone who enjoys gambling, but he also recognizes that he wants a secure retirement. So I'm the first person to go, hey, great, here's how much I want you to go gamble with, and go have a great time. If it goes to zero, who cares? But you're not touching the majority of your retirement, because I couldn't subject that to a risk. That would mean you can't accomplish what you want most. He's like, great, I just wanted to know the number. Most people I find, they talk to an advisor and they think they're going to be told they can't do this or that. And sometimes that's the case, but it shouldn't be that way. It should be customized. So, and I'm going to do more case studies on people who are in their 30s and 40s going, hey, what should I do? How much should I save to brokerage and Roth and 401k? So long answer to this question, but hopefully that was helpful for the first one. All right, I'm going to go a little faster through the rest of these. Let's go to the next one. This comes from Janet Allen-CD1ZS. Already loving the post. Thank you for doing them. I'm trying to educate myself in order to prepare for my husband and I to retire. I'm 59, my husband's 61. I'm not sure where to begin the process. I'm reading I should do a net worth statement, but also saying I should prepare a budget. What do you recommend? Net worth is good. It's just telling you, okay, what am I broadly looking at? I don't love net worth statements as much as everyone else. And the reason is because my parents have a $7 million net worth and they're still working. They have a home in Malibu, California worth a lot of money, but they don't have a lot in their investment. So they're not able to simply create income. So just because you have a great net worth does not mean you're in a good spot to retire. Now, I joke that I'm the meanest early retirement advisor because I just don't want you to retire too early. So the first step that I like to make sure you understand is, okay, what are our assets? Meaning, what are we working with? How much do we have in IRAs? How much do we have 401ks? How much do we have in Roth IRAs? Okay, great. Do we have a home that we may want to sell? Yeah, okay, so there's equity there. Not saying you have to sell, but good to know. And then from there, it's what other income sources exist? Social Security, pension, rental income. Okay, great. And then loosely, how much income could your portfolio generate? So you bring all your accounts together and you see you have $1 million. Well, if you're following the right rules, that can generate about $50,000 a year. But wait a second, that's assuming you have $1 million in a Roth IRA, which you probably don't. It's probably a combination of 401k and brokerage. And so it becomes overwhelming. And right there, what I just said will lose people. And I know that because some of my clients go, whoa, $1 million, but multiple accounts, I'm losing it now. And that's when I say, take a step back. Don't get that analysis paralysis where all of a sudden you go, it's too much, I'm overwhelmed. Don't do that. I want to make sure you are moving in the right direction. So to keep it easy, I like to start with the fun way of approaching this. And so what I'll do with my clients, oftentimes there's one spouse that loves finances, one that loves it a whole lot less. And it creates a good team, but for financial situations, most advisors let them off the hook. And they go, yeah, don't worry about coming to the different meetings, spouse that's not interested in finances, and we're going to let this spouse take care of it. And then what happens is that spouse passes away, and now this spouse wasn't properly educated, and now the strategy is not essentially being executed, and they're way more stressed. So I don't let my clients off the hook where I say, yeah, you don't have to be on every single meeting. I say, hey, you don't have to be on every single meeting, but I don't let them off the hook by simply saying you don't have to be involved in the financial discussion. And I try to keep it fun. And so one I'll often use and say, hey, let's assume it's John and Jane. I'll say, Jane, I'm going to force you to spend $300,000 this year. And if you don't, you can't give it to your kids or college. It's going to your least favorite political party. Now, what are you going to do? And that gets people talking, okay? I try to keep it fun. So the idea here, what steps do you take? Ask yourself how much you would love to spend in retirement. Start there. And you might go, I don't even know. Well, I have a cash flow spreadsheet that's going to help you determine that in the description today. So you can see it right there. It's going to help you go, got it. I have a mortgage, but that's going to go away. I make $200,000 a year, but I'm saving to a 401k. So do I need $200,000? No, you're not simply replacing the paycheck you have today, because right now there's a bunch of deductions coming out of that. So you don't need that. So the first thing is ask yourself to do a budget and see, hey, roughly, don't have to be perfect, how much might you need to do what you want to do? And you might realize it's $10,000 a month. Okay, great. You might realize it's $5,000 a month. You might realize it's $5,000 a month, but I need to buy a car every 10 years for $50,000. I want to travel the first 10 years for $20,000 a year. Those are very common. So start there. Okay, great. From there, go, great. Can my assets support that level of expenses? And then from there, what's your plan to not get killed by taxes along the way? Because most of you will. So those are the steps I like to take when it comes to planning for retirement. Next one here says, don't forget the IRMA tax in your thinking. It can be material as you try to use of the lower brackets, you push your income in the higher IRMA brackets. Didn't explain it perfectly, but I'm going to give it to you guys. So Wes M3848, you did your best here. I'm not beating you up by any means. This is what I'm going to show you guys. All right, everyone. So look right here. It's not perfect, but I'm going to show you an example. Here's a tax sample. So here's a client right now, guys. I'm going to zoom in for you. The income that they're making is $224,000 a year. And you're like, wait a second. You said they're retired. And they are. What's happening is they have Social Security, 2 pensions, and required distributions. And so they're in the 22% tax bracket here, almost jumping into the 24% bracket. What this commenter was mentioning was, what about IRMA surcharges? So they're talking about this down here. They're talking about this separate tax bracket that's going to essentially make sure you're paying more than you should. So what happens is, if you let your income grow and you don't do Roth conversions and all these different things I talk about, what happens is your income gets so high that now your Medicare Part B and Part D premiums increase. This is called your friend IRMA, and they're not your friend. So what can happen is, if you just let your income keep growing and you say, hey, I don't want to implement all the stuff you talk about, well, you're going to be fine now, but in the future, you and your spouse might be paying legitimately $7,000 between both of you unnecessarily every single year. So this is what they're alluding to. So good comment here, Wes M3848. Don't forget about it in your thinking. It can be material. Here's a quick comment from Nate Katz. Yep, won't be letting my kids make that mistake. Wish I'd caught it sooner. You're like, what are you talking about? What he is referencing is my phrase, qualified rich cash poor versus house rich cash poor. So my parents are house rich cash poor, and they let me use them as examples, where they have a lot of equity in their home, but they can't create income because they never want to leave. So I made up a phrase called qualified rich cash poor. That's where you save too heavily to your 401ks and IRAs and Roth IRAs, where all of a sudden, here you are with $10 million at 52. And if you want to take money out because you hate your job, well, you can't. There's no other way. You have to pay the 10% penalty and pay taxes on that. So now all of a sudden you're paying way more than you want to pay, trust me. And you're going, well, if I would have just saved outside of these qualified retirement accounts, I could have used that money to help bridge the gap until I can tap into my funds. And that's exactly right. So here's a guy who likely invested really well, did all the right things on paper, but now all of a sudden goes, hey, I kind of oversaved to my qualified account. So don't make that mistake. Quick comment here from AZ Raider 9447. Regarding my health insurance episode, very helpful information. Thank you. Healthcare is one of those items that's a little scary when thinking about it. I look forward to continuing my education. The only reason I'm putting this comment in here, don't have head trash. Most people are like, oh my God, I've had a employer my whole life and I know what healthcare costs and I have no idea what it's going to cost. Is it $12 million a year? It's like, no. Oftentimes it could be $500 a month. Now there's instances where it's a lot more and instances where it's a lot less. And if you're strategic, you can pay a lot less. But the idea here is, don't simply go, oh my God, I don't know what healthcare is going to cost, so I'm not going to retire early. Some people make that mistake. James Chavez 5723, he says, hey, what this case study video showed me is you've got incredible software. And I do. And 6 months ago, I wasn't using it. I had a different software. And in 6 months, I might have a new one that I'm going to use. I'm always on the lookout. What are the best financial planning tools available? That software program, it's available to all of you guys. So if you want to use the same thing I use for my multi-million-dollar clients to project what are you on track for, how much you should save in those tools, you can see it in the description of the episode. You can get access to the software. Quick comment from Family in SoCal. Nice video to see what's possible just by changing some variables. Thank you for showing us the thought process to see how we can retire earlier than the traditional 65. Some of these variables, do you spend more? Do you spend less? Are you in a good spot? Most people, I find, they know they make an impact, but they don't know the degree. So once again, if you want to play around with this tool yourself, you can see it in the description. I want to leave you with my favorite comment. I might pick one or two more, haven't decided yet, but here's a comment I love. So I made a video, the power of one more year, and how one more year work impacts your retirement, because it has a big impact. It's not simply, okay, great, I'm saving another $30,000 in my 401k. It's one less year that you're withdrawing from your portfolio, which lets that compound even more. It's another year of saving. It's another year of going, okay, how much do I want to spend in retirement? It helps. But too many people go, oh, wow, that helps a lot. And they keep working unnecessarily. And they just say, yep, 6 more months. Yep, 1 more year. Yep, 2 more years. And then they're still working, but they don't need to be. So the point here is there's a flip side. And I love that Thomas Edwards 629 brought it out. He goes, hey, the flip side here, if your job's physically demanding, full of stress, something you hate, hurting your health, taking the little time remaining that you have from being with your family or activities you want to do, the 1 more year of work might not be a good deal. You got to figure out what matters most for you. Love that. Thomas Edwards, you are like my perfect client. So love that you're saying that. 2 quick bonus ones just for fun here. This is from Andy Wang, Andy Wang 4495. Andy, I've spoken with personally. Andy and Judy are lovely people. They're clients of mine. And they're like, hey, I'm so happy I found you and James. Really enjoy working with our lead advisor, Chris. Chris is awesome. All of our advisors are awesome. It's super cool. When you become a client of Root, you become an LL, which is a leisure listener, where you get to go, hey, I get to listen, but I don't have to worry. Is that happening with my plan? And should I be doing that? And is someone going to proactively reach out to me about this stuff? So we have the best advisors in the industry. And what's special is our advisors just advise. They don't want to do marketing and videos and compliance. Like just let them do what they do best. And so here's someone who reached out, found us, now works with Chris, and is super stoked. So love to see that. Okay, real last one for you. This comes from caregiver_life. Hey, Ari, appreciate your content. My spouse recently became disabled, so we're basically being forced into retirement in our early 50s. Finances are okay, but having this channel as a resource has helped me make a bit more comfortable with what we may have to deal with in the coming months. I think you have a great mix of hearth truths and encouraging words. Appreciate that comment. I hear this often, and I was even kind of mixing up my words there because I was thinking about clients I have that are disabled and that have health issues. And so the reason this hits me hard is you don't know what's going to happen. There's no way to know. And I want you to know, are you in a good spot? And there's enough tough stuff in life. Don't make finances be another one. And when I'm seeing comments like this, I do not want you retiring too early. And that is why I half joke when I say, I am the meanest advisor. I will not let you retire too early. I think most advisors want to be your friend. I'm okay being friendly. I want to be friendly. I'm more than okay with being friendly. I think you can see that in my videos. I hope if not. But I'm not going to come and say, hey, yeah, you're in a great spot if you're not. So some people reach out and they think I'm going to validate they're in a good spot. And I'm like, you're working 7 more years. And they're like, what? I go, yeah, if you want to spend what you want to spend the next 40, 50 years, here's what I would tell you is a conservative amount so that I'm a conservative guy. I don't want you to run the risk of having to go back to work. So I'll be the first person to say, please go work another year or 6 months so you can retire with confidence. And I'll also be the first person to say, why are you working today? You don't need to be. And you told me you didn't want to leave $5 million to your kids. So every time that you work, you're simply extending a tax problem that we could mitigate if you stop working today. So I'm the one I just want to give it to you transparently, and it's because I care, not because I'm actually mean. So hopefully you can realize that. Guys, this is what I want to do, kind of a mailbag episode, answering a bunch of comments. Hopefully this was helpful. If so, like this, subscribe it, share it with your friends. More fun to retire early with your coworkers, not just on your own. So thank you guys for supporting the channel, and let me know in the comments, drop any questions you have, and I'll answer them for you guys. So hopefully you guys love this video, and see you soon.